Enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Back then, my father, Marquis Shen, went into the royal study as usual to have a heated debate with his longtime nemesis. Meanwhile, I and the son of that very enemy, His Highness the Crown Prince Haranli, sat nearby playing chess, a calm routine we had fallen into. Suddenly he spoke up. "You are not allowed to retract your move." My face flushed slightly. Just moments ago when he lifted his teacup I had seized the opportunity to secretly take back a chess piece I had played wrong. Yet, I still argued stubbornly. "As the dignified crown prince, you are being petty with a weak woman like me. It truly diminishes your gentlemanly demeanor." Crown Prince Heron gave me a faint glance. A weak woman who climbs onto the roof and gets into fistfights every day. That look was clearly full of provocation. The world rumors that the Crown Prince is a gentle and refined man, perhaps a bit cold, but always polite. He is pleasant to everyone else, even the strict old tutor has to praise him. But in my eyes, he is clearly a petty man with a narrow heart, always liking to provoke me, oppose me, and possessing a venomous tongue. I retorted, "Have I ever fought with you or destroyed your roof? Why must you control me so much?" Haran leisurely replied, "You certainly have not caused enough trouble in the palace, rolling around and crying." I ground my teeth in anger, slamming the table so hard the chess pieces rattled. "Do you believe me? If I were to marry into the Eastern Palace, I would turn that place upside down, ensuring there is never a day of peace." Hearing this, he froze. His clear, water-like eyes looked at me, revealing a flash of disbelief. Even though I had spoken recklessly out of anger, seeing him so flustered was rare, and I felt extremely satisfied. I continued to threaten him. "Today, this Lady Serena is not convinced. If you continue to provoke me, I will ask His Majesty to grant a marriage decree, just to show you how formidable I can be." Unexpectedly, before Haran could even react, the arguing on the other side had stopped without us noticing. The Emperor suddenly burst into hearty laughter. "Good, this suits my wishes perfectly. Attendants, draft the Imperial decree immediately." My father, Marquis Shen, looked as if he was afraid I would change my mind. The Emperor immediately put brush to paper, drafting the decree in the blink of an eye. Before I could even reach out to stop it, the jade seal had already been stamped down. The moment the seal touched the paper, my legs went weak, and I collapsed onto the floor. The Emperor glanced at me and smiled benevolently. "Serena, there is no need for such a grand gesture. We will all be family from now on." Then he pointed at my father, laughing triumphantly. "Serves you right for arguing with me all day. Go home and wait for your wife to scold you." I am sure my mother could never understand how, on a day I simply followed my father into the palace mainly to steal a few pastries from the royal kitchen, I managed to bring home an imperial marriage decree. Just as the Emperor had hoped, my mother gave my father a sound scolding. As for what deep feud existed between my father, Marquis Shen, and the Emperor, that story requires mentioning my mother. My father and the Emperor were love rivals in their youth, both falling for my mother. Regrettably, my mother was rather slow-witted and did not understand the romantic intentions of others. My father acted quickly, using a few tricks to marry her first. At that time, the Emperor was still the crown prince and was unconvinced by his loss. Shortly after the wedding, he suggested that my father accompany my grandfather to suppress a rebellion in the western border. The expedition lasted 3 years, and during those 3 years, the Emperor also married someone else. In truth, he knew well that if my mother did not have feelings for my father, she would not have married him so easily. Yet, the grudge remained. A few years after taking the throne, the Emperor was constantly criticized by my father and the officials. After the court sessions ended, he would drag my father into the royal study just to argue to his heart's content. Ever since my great-aunt passed away, I could no longer eat the cakes she made. By chance, I discovered that the chefs in the royal kitchen could recreate a similar flavor. So, I often followed my father into the palace to eat pastries and bring some home for my mother. This time, I held a plate of osmanthus cakes and timidly offered it to my mother. "Mother, please calm down." My mother looked at me and sighed. "My child, why is your personality exactly like mine? Do you truly like the crown prince?" I opened my mouth to speak, stuttered for a while, and finally did not refute it. I truly did like Heron, though I had never told anyone. Honestly, it was not easy to admit. I liked him simply because he was too handsome. I was captivated by his beauty. My mother sighed again. "Truly, my daughter." I gave 2 awkward laughs, and while my mother was still lamenting, I took the opportunity to grab my father and flee. My father was incredibly grateful. He immediately shoved half of his private savings into my hand, his face serious. Serena, I hope you keep your word. Do not let his son live in peace. I counted the banknotes and stuffed them into my robes, then stood on my tiptoes to pat my father's shoulder. Rest assured, father. Money is meant to be spent, and revenge is meant to be taken. I, Serena Shen, will definitely repay this grudge for you today. My father was too moved to speak. I then added, these 250 taels will be considered a deposit. After the job is done, I will ask for the other half. My father immediately chased after me to demand the money back, so I quickly called for reinforcements. Silas, help me. I will share 50 taels with you. A dark figure flashed out, blocking my father. My father stomped his feet in anger. When I returned to my room, Silas quietly followed. I happily put 200 taels into my private chest, then offered 50 taels to Silas as promised. Silas did not accept it. I stuffed it into his hand. Buy yourself some good food. I see you have been so busy lately that you have become thin. Silas lowered his eyes and put away the silver. Does the lady plan to marry the crown prince? I held my cheek and spoke in a daze. My mother always blames my father for spoiling me, while my father says as long as I am happy, it is fine, but this time it is a huge matter. I have truly capsized the boat in the gutter. Silas asked, is the lady not willing? I paused and whispered, I am afraid he is the one not willing. He is probably cursing me 800 times right now. Silas took a step forward. Does the crown prince not like the lady? I replied, he probably truly dislikes me. Harun always says I do not look like a lady, that I cause trouble and lack the virtues of a noblewoman. I guess he likes gentle and dignified women. Silas remained calm, then the lady should not marry him. Hearing this, I rubbed my hands together and smiled slyly. No rush. I will just wait for Harun to actively resist the decree and break the engagement. At that time, His Majesty will be furious and will definitely drag him out for a good scolding. I smirked at the thought. Silas continued, at that time, the lady will bear the reputation of being abandoned for being rude and unruly. I changed the subject. Why don't you go out and buy me something to eat? Silas looked serious. The lady just ate quite a few pastries. Eating without restraint will harm your body. Moreover, the lady has gained a little weight recently. I slumped in defeat. Silas Shen, get out. It was the warmth of returning spring. The blue lake was lined with graceful weeping willows. A few strands stretched down to touch the water, swaying with the wind to create rippling circles. I met the crown prince again on the outskirts of the capital. He had rarely left the palace in recent years. He wore white robes, his figure tall and handsome like jade. Just standing there, he looked like a painting. It was no exaggeration to say that if there were no woman beside him, I could hide behind a tree and watch him all day. But unfortunately, there was a lovely beauty beside him. Tessa, Silas, and I sneakily moved a bit closer and heard the beauty sobbing, her shoulders trembling slightly, looking extremely pitiful. I clicked my tongue and pulled Tessa's hand. Tessa, what a sin. It seems this decree has separated a pair of pitiful lovebirds. Separated what? Before Tessa could reply, a voice rang out from behind us, getting closer. I turned around in embarrassment. The crown prince was standing there, his expression cold yet handsome. Your Highness, what a coincidence. Are you out here to fly kites too? Ah no, you are here to have a rendezvous with Miss Zhao. The person who had just wiped away her tears behind him was none other than Miranda Zhao, the biological niece of the current Chancellor Zhao. She was a gentle and elegant young lady, the type of person Harun must surely like. I laughed awkwardly. I am disturbing you. I am disturbing you. Harun frowned and scolded gently. What nonsense are you spouting? We just met by chance. Miranda Zhao also spoke up. Lady Serena, do not misunderstand. There is absolutely nothing between His Highness and me. I looked at Miranda's eyes, which were full of resentment and hidden meaning. Feeling displeased, I gave a faint smile. This coincidence must have taken Miss Zhao quite a bit of arrangement. The crown prince simply said one light sentence. Such a coincidence is truly heartbreaking for others. Miranda Zhao, who never liked me, heard this and angrily retaliated. The lady is exaggerating. I only have small sentiments. How can I compare to the lady's skill in the royal study? Crying and making a scene to beg for a marriage decree. How amusing. In the eyes of the world, it turns out marriage was something I snatched away. It makes sense. Everyone knows Miss Zhao is beautiful, talented, and childhood friends with the crown prince. Everyone thought she was the destined crown princess. Who would have guessed that halfway through, a notorious lady like me would cut in with an imperial decree? Himph, I specialize in dealing with those who are unconvinced. I immediately linked my arm with Harren's and whined in a coquettish voice. Oh my dear Crown Prince brother, why have you not said anything while others are rushing to be indignant on your behalf? Miss Zhao, do not let anger harm your health. No one will feel sorry for you. I only feel sorry for my Crown Prince brother. This move was truly a double-edged sword that hurt both sides. I got goosebumps as soon as I finished speaking. Harren's whole body went stiff. He wanted to pull his hand back, but I held it tight. Miranda Zhao was shaking with rage. Her tear-filled eyes were about to spill over when the maid behind her immediately supported her and spoke up. My young miss is naturally weak. How can she withstand Lady Serena's unruliness? But my young miss grew up with the Crown Prince, and that affection is not easily replaced. Please have some self-respect, Lady Serena. Do not pull and drag in broad daylight, it is beneath your status. Oh my. Rumors are starting to sound like the truth. Just because she has an aunt who is a royal consort, and she entered the palace a few times, she dares to claim she is a childhood sweetheart. When I was 5 years old, I grabbed Harren by the waist and argued with him in the courtyard. Which corner were you hiding in? I was about to retort eloquently when Harren's cold voice rang out beside me. Insolent. I started and immediately took 2 steps back, like a frightened quail. The maid was in an even worse state, kneeling prostrate on the ground. Although Harren and I often bickered, he had never scolded me as insolent like that before. For a long moment, I could not react, wondering who he was talking to. He looked at me as if he found something amusing, then pulled me closer. Lady Serena is my fiancée. You dare to insult her in front of me. Don't you think I am too lenient? I immediately borrowed his authority to threaten them. Right. Do you think he is too lenient? He turned to Miranda Zhao. This is your servant, so it is not my place to punish her. I hope Miss Zhao will discipline herself well, and not let the Zhao family lose face. I immediately chimed in. Teach her well. Do not let people laugh at you. Harren glanced at me, a hint of a smile in his eyes. I huffed softly and pretended not to see it. He continued. Regarding the matter Miss Zhou proposed, I find it inappropriate. I hope the young miss will extinguish that hope soon and find someone else who is a suitable match. I turned up my nose. He does not like you, so stop dreaming. Miss Zhao left in anger. I remained indifferent. So much for being a talented and beautiful lady of a noble family. All she knows is how to cry and whine. It is truly shameful. Harren said. Indeed, who could compare to you? When a wall collapsed on you, smashing your head and causing you to bleed, nearly disfiguring you, you did not utter a single groan. If one did not know better, they would think you were mute. I felt proud. This lady is a heroine among women. How could they compare? Tessa stood behind me, covering her face and whispering. Lady, he was not praising you. Silas, however, remained calm. The lady is absolutely right. I patted his shoulder. Only Silas understands me. Harren glanced at my hand resting on Silas's shoulder, his expression looking a bit unpleasant. I enthusiastically boasted. What do you think? My Silas is quite handsome, is he not? When he goes out, other young ladies blush and look at him several times. Tessa pulled on my sleeve. Lady, please stop talking. I did not understand. Can I not praise him for being handsome? I have not even mentioned the young gigolo in Aunt Bianca's moonlit pavilion. Tessa hurriedly covered my mouth. Harren's face was extremely unsightly by this point. He gritted his teeth. You just wait. I thought to myself, I am waiting for you to actively resist the decree and get a harsh scolding from the emperor. I waited and waited, only to bump into Harren in the moonlit pavilion. His expression was incredibly colorful, and mine was not much better. What are you doing here? I spoke first to seize the initiative. After all, I was a regular customer here. I came to find someone. Harren rarely stuttered, his eyes darting east and west. I spoke coldly. Oh, how coincidental, so did I. I will not disturb you. I pretended to leave. Waiting for him to go to the room he was looking for, I quickly found a corner to observe. The moment the door closed, I glanced inside. A tall beauty wearing foreign attire, with a thin veil covering her face, stood in the room. My heart shattered in an instant. I hugged a wine jar in the room of Aunt Bianca, the owner of the moonlit pavilion, drinking alone. As I drank, my eyes began to sting. Aunt Bianca frowned in disgust. To drink like this over a man, you are even worse than your mother was back then. Aunt Bianca was my mother's confidante and the illegitimate daughter of a late general. Her parents died early, and her status was awkward, so my mother helped her establish the moonlit pavilion to have a place to stay. Everyone in the moonlit pavilion, whether man or woman, was pure. Many of them had tragic fates and were temporarily hiding from the world in this place. I knew nothing would happen in that room, but I was still incredibly sad. Just imagining Harun being gentle and attentive to another woman made my heart feel as if it were being squeezed tight. Aunt Bianca asked, "Since you like him, why do you still want him to break the engagement?" Perhaps seeing me cry as if I were about to stop breathing, Aunt Bianca could not take it anymore. She snatched the wine jar and lowered her voice. "The beauty in that room is a man. Do not be sad anymore." I was stunned. Aunt Bianca breathed a sigh of relief, but before she could finish exhaling, I started wailing like a storm, nearly choking her. "Boo-hoo-hoo. He likes men. Then I truly have no hope left." Aunt Bianca gave up completely. She dragged me and threw me into an empty room to sober up. I was not convinced, shouting as I went, "So what if it is a man? Does the moonlit pavilion lack men more handsome than him?" "Aunt Bianca, I want the most handsome person in the pavilion to come drink with me and play the zither for me. I will not hang myself on a single tree. I must hang myself on every tree in the forest." The door slammed shut, cutting off all my wailing. But Aunt Bianca still spoiled me. Before long, a tall man pushed the door open and walked into my room. I stumbled off the bed, my head splitting with pain. I could not see his face clearly, only feeling that his eyes looked very much like Harun's. I giggled. "Aunt Bianca truly understands me. This gigolo suits my taste perfectly." Then, like a hungry wolf, I pounced on him. The man dodged. I pretended to be serious. "I know you sell your art, not your body. Rest assured, this lady will not do anything to you. Just sit and drink with me." Saying that, I touched his hand. It was slender with well-defined knuckles. He paused and did not push my hand away, asking in a cold voice, "Where is the wine?" His voice sounded just like him too. I pointed to the table where the wine had been taken away by Aunt Bianca. I wanted to go out to find it, but the effects of the peach blossom wine kicked in. My legs felt like I was stepping on cotton. I could not stand steady and fell forward. He quickly caught my waist, his other hand gripping my arm to pull me into his embrace. A fresh, cool scent radiated from him, his arms broad and warm. I squinted and smiled. "You came to me first, so do not blame this lady for not being polite." While he was stunned, I kicked him onto the bed. He let out a soft groan. I apologize to everyone. I cannot tell you what happened after that. It was truly a disaster. Otherwise, I would not have been dragged into the royal study by Harun." When he recounted my crimes to his father with a cold face, I was completely speechless. The emperor turned to ask me, "Serena, tell me, is it true?" "I trust you," I replied. "Your Majesty is wise. When I woke up this morning, I did not see the crown prince anywhere. I was too drunk to remember everything clearly from last night. His Highness is taking advantage of this to fabricate stories." "Do you have any evidence?" As if he had anticipated this, Harun pulled down his collar on the right side, revealing a reddish bite mark that had not yet faded. "Here." He gave a faint smile. "Lady Serena, do you want to take another bite to compare and see if I am falsely accusing you?" That expression clearly looked like someone who had been discarded after being toyed with. If I were not the person involved, I might have believed him too. The emperor pretended to be helpless. "Serena, there is only 1 month left until you two are married. Were you really that impatient?" Fine, I love you the most." "Then let us just have the wedding in 3 days. I have checked, and it is a good day." I felt that His Majesty's acting was even worse than his son's. Walking out of the royal study, I asked Harun with a dark expression, "Are you satisfied now?" He replied, "Seeing you dissatisfied makes me very satisfied." I gritted my teeth. "Just you wait." That night, I received our imperial decree at my manor. My parents looked at me with indescribable expressions. My father stammered, "I heard that you forced yourself on the crown prince." My mother shoved him and asked me, "Tell us exactly what happened." What could I say now? That I mistook Harun for a gigolo in the moonlit pavilion. That he went on a date with a man and then came back to take revenge, causing the emperor to move up the wedding date to silence me. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I crushed the porcelain cup in my hand and swore, "Father, rest assured, even without the remaining half of the money, I will throw the Eastern Palace into chaos, making chickens fly and dogs jump. I will absolutely not let Harun live in peace." On the wedding night, wearing my magnificent red bridal robes, I climbed onto the roof of the sleeping quarters. Below in the courtyard was a group of maids, their faces drained of blood. Matron Jung was urging Tessa to persuade me. Tessa looked awkward. "Lady, why don't you come down? If you are angry, find another way to torment the crown prince. Do not make yourself suffer. The entire courtyard went dead silent. The whispering crowd instantly turned to stone, and even Matron Jung froze. Oh Tessa, do not force yourself to speak. Tessa finally realized she had misspoken. Her face turned bright red, and she bowed her head in silence. Howren returned very quickly. He was wearing red wedding robes that matched mine, looking even more handsome under the moonlight. He looked up at me, his brows furrowed, his eyes deep, and the alcohol tinting his cheeks red. He spoke in a cold voice. Get down. I was stubborn. No. If your highness came up here to watch the moon too, wouldn't it be more fun? He gave a faint smile and waved his hand to dismiss everyone. I repeat, come down. I also repeated, no. Today I climbed onto the roof, and tomorrow I will get into a fight. Since you married me, do not expect to live in peace. That Shen woman. He gritted his teeth, pronouncing every word of my name. I thought he was about to explode in anger, but to my surprise, he spread his arms wide and smiled. Come down, I will catch you. I stood there in a daze. The stifling anger in my chest vanished, replaced by a feeling like a little deer crashing around inside my heart. Bewildered and without thinking, I jumped straight into his arms. Bam! I jumped into his embrace, and we both crashed heavily onto the ground. It hurt a little. I mumbled, did you not say you would catch me? Howren rubbed his forehead. I drank a bit too much just now and could not stand steadily. I stood up, dusted off the dirt, and intended to leave. He spoke sluggishly. Serena, give me a hand. He was truly drunk. His voice was stained with alcohol, husky and seductive, completely unlike his usual self. I turned back to look at the hand he held out, fair and slender. I pulled him up, but he took the opportunity to lean his entire weight on me, gently stroking my hair. Why is your hair down? The phoenix crown was in the way, so I took it off. He was not angry. Instead, he rested his head on my shoulder, his breath burning hot. Making such a scene on our wedding night. Are you angry that I came back late? Is Serena so impatient to consummate the marriage with her husband? What do you want me to do? I could not believe my ears. That cold-faced, ascetic man had turned into a rogue after getting drunk. Huron, sober up a little. Let me tell you, do not think you use alcohol as an excuse to misbehave. I am not easily bullied. I pushed him away and ran into the room, intending to close the door. Before the door could close, he held it back. He swept me up into his arms and chuckled softly. What are you afraid of? I was stubborn. I am not afraid. Humph. Then let go of the blanket. I will not. That day you were drunk, you were not like this. And usually, you are not like this either. Howren did not bother arguing anymore. He directly yanked the blanket I was hugging. I screamed. Howren, what are you doing? Do not think I dare not hit you. Even if you are the crown prince, I will show no mercy. Howren leaned down and kissed me. Do not ask me how that night went. I regretted it immensely. I lay on the bed staring wide-eyed. It seemed Howren had already left. I wanted to curse all 18 generations of his ancestors, but no matter how I thought about it, that would be treason. As soon as I opened my mouth, I realized my voice was completely hoarse. I struggled to sit up, dragging my limp body to find water. Lifting the curtain, I locked eyes with Howren, who was sitting upright at the table. I dropped the curtain and rolled back onto the bed. He poured water, sat by the bed, and watched me drink it all before speaking. Last night was my fault. Next time I will be gentler. Still that cold, self-restrained appearance. I blurted out, there is still a next time. He froze, as if saying yes was wrong and saying no was also wrong. His ears turned red somehow. He looked as if I were the one bullying him. I spoke up, seriously. Do not tell me you do not know what you are like when you are drunk. Howren remained silent for a long time before replying. Before this I had never drunk so much. He explained that yesterday, a few people who frequently associated with my father conspired to force wine on him, threatening to make him so drunk he could not enter the bridal chamber. If you had not caused a scene, I would not have had an excuse to leave the table early. Otherwise, I would surely have been carried back. That meant my father and I had inadvertently joined forces to harm ourselves. I was trembling with anger. I could not vent my anger on myself. My father was not there, so I could only vent on him. Just because they offered, did you have to drink? You are the crown prince. If you do not drink, who can force you? Did you do it on purpose? He asked back. Why would I do that on purpose? I choked on my words. It was truly too aggrieving. I rolled around on the bed. My clothes, already disheveled, became even messier, revealing shoulders and arms covered in ambiguous red marks. Howren's gaze lingered on my skin, his Adam's apple moving slightly. He pulled the blanket up to cover me and spoke in a low voice. Do not cause any more trouble. I was stubborn. No. You bullied me like that and now you will not let me make a fuss. That is too much. Why are you covering me? I will not be covered. Yesterday you were quite quick to take them off. Why are you feeling guilty now? You even lied to me that you would be gentle. As a result, a series of ambiguous images flashed through my mind. I pointed at him, unable to utter the words I wanted to say. If I have sinned, let the heavens punish me, but do not let me get a nosebleed right now. Just kill me immediately. Harun pursed his lips, handed me a handkerchief, and poured more water for me. Finally, he laughed. I picked up a pillow and threw it straight at him. What are you laughing at? Get out of here. He obediently put the pillow back and left. Not long after, Tessa entered with washing items. She hesitated and asked, "Lady, did you rest well last night?" I spoke coldly. "Can you speak normally?" Tessa giggled. Now that Consort Zhao holds the Phoenix seal in the palace, the lady is spared from going to pay respects. His Highness ordered that you should just rest today. Tomorrow, Matron Zheng will teach you how to manage the Eastern Palace.
Ah, that is right.
After Harun's mother passed away from a difficult childbirth, the position of Empress has always been vacant. Consort Zhao, the daughter of Chancellor, had been recommended by many officials to be the Empress, but the Emperor remained silent. Even though she gave birth to a prince 8 years ago, she was only temporarily entrusted with the Phoenix seal. The specific reason was known only to the Emperor. I sighed. Can I not continue being an idle person? Tessa beamed. Yes, Crown Princess. In the following days, Harun was busy. Except for the day we returned to my maiden home for the customary visit, I rarely saw his face. At night, he slept in his own quarters. My father was still cold towards him, but my mother was just like me. Merely looking at his face made her grin from ear to ear, easily charmed by him. She constantly urged me to give her a grandchild soon. I wanted to drag her to the Eastern Palace to see what I was actually doing. Under the affectionate discipline of Matron Zheng's stick and lectures, I was as obedient as a chick, diligently learning everything about managing the inner court. Matron Zheng, who initially resented me for the chaos on the wedding night, was now gentler. She was an old servant of Harun's mother. After the Empress passed, she stayed in the Eastern Palace to care for him. She was advanced in years, so I dared not provoke her anymore. Tessa was both moved and admiring, having never seen the lady so obedient and cute before. For the sake of the Crown Prince, you truly know how to endure. Unable to hold it in, I threw a vermilion brush at her skirt. Matron Zheng gently scolded. Crown Princess, I had grasped her personality of being soft when coaxed but hard when opposed, so I immediately whined. Nanny, I am so tired. Reading account books for days has made my eyes blurry. Sure enough, her heart softened, and she gave a light cough. Tomorrow this old servant will go out to buy supplies. The Crown Princess may rest for a day. My eyes lit up. Then Nanny, remember to buy me some Lucky Peach Blossom wine, that is my favorite. Matron Zheng remarked. The Crown Princess is truly different from His Highness. You like to drink wine. I smiled slyly because when he gets drunk, he goes crazy. Matron Zheng helped me tidy up the account books and chuckled softly. His Highness is usually restrained and does not drink to excess. Even if he gets drunk, he only talks more and expresses his true feelings. It was only on the wedding night, when he was forced to drink, that he consumed so much. Ah, so Harun's true self is a rogue. Tessa listened and was angry but dared not speak. I did not feel a shred of guilt. Once Nanny is gone tomorrow, my plan to cause chaos will restart. Tessa asked, what does the lady plan to do now? I gave a shady smile. Everyone in the Eastern Palace is dry and serious. As the Crown Princess, I should bring some fun. When I set up a gambling table in the middle of the courtyard, only a few little maids dared to join. I did not know many games, so I just came up with shaking dice to guess big or small. Forced by me, Tessa and a few maids played along. I won 2 rounds at first, then lost several in a row until my money pouch was completely flat without a single coin left. I waved my hand. You guys keep playing, I will go outside to keep watch. I sat at the door kicking a ball, calculating that I would borrow some money from Tessa later to win it back. As the initiator, I could not go home empty-handed. Not long after, Harun returned. He was wearing his court attire, his figure tall and slender, his black hair tied neatly under a jade cap, unparalleled in his handsomeness. Seeing me, he looked both happy and wary, walking towards me. I ran out to welcome him. Your Highness is back. Are you tired? Would you like to come in for some tea? He looked at me for a while and asked helplessly. What trick are you up to now? Before I could reply, cheers and shouts rang out from the courtyard, along with the clinking sound of silver colliding. He looked inside, his face turning as black as the bottom of a pot. He was unhappy, which made me very happy. I called out 2 more times. Your Highness, Your Highness. He turned back, his face completely dark. I crossed my arms over my chest and smiled brilliantly. I still have not forgotten my vow from before. Harun was so angry he was speechless. Why is the crown princess not playing? Were you not waiting for me? I gave a stiff smile. The feng shui here is not suitable, it made me lose everything. I will win it back in a couple of days. No need. He took my hand and pulled me into the courtyard. Let me win it back for you. Everyone was about to kneel. I shouted. No one is allowed to kneel. I will take responsibility for anything that happens. I squeezed his hand tight. You said you would help me win it back. He smiled lightly and signaled for silver. Unexpectedly, he lost everything. I laughed behind his back. See that? You are even worse than me. Harun choked, unable to believe it. Tessa gave a signal. Everyone hurriedly collected the money and slipped away. I walked around to his front and clapped my hands. Who would have thought the all-powerful genius crown prince would lose so completely? He said nothing, only wrapped his arm around my waist, lifted me up to sit on the table, and trapped me between the table and himself. This posture was dangerous. I pushed him. What are you doing? It is broad daylight. He leaned close to my ear. I am not doing anything. Only Matron Jung will be coming back to discipline you. My expression changed. You are going to tattle again. He did not answer, just gently lifted my chin, in an extremely good mood, and then left. If I could not use the old trick on him, I would use it on his father. I ran into the royal study. Father Emperor, the crown prince is neglecting his duties, gathering people to gamble, and he even lost everything. The emperor's face turned purple with rage, and he summoned him for a harsh scolding. Meanwhile I ate pastries, drank tea, and played chess, enjoying my leisure. I heard the emperor say, "You have completely lost the face of the royal family, you could not even win a single round." Harun said, "Your son knows his crime." The emperor continued, "Since you have so much free time, hurry up and give me a grandchild to hold." Cough cough cough. Harun's face remained unchanged. "Serena is busy trying to win back her money, she has no time to pay attention to your son." I knew things were not looking good, so I hurriedly retreated. "Father Emperor, I am cooking silver ear fungus soup, I need to check it before it boils dry." Back in the Eastern Palace, I consciously finished plowing through the account books. Matron Jung returned and placed 2 jars of peach blossom wine on the table. I grinned and reached for them but got my hand slapped. "Finish checking the books, then you can drink." I had to grit my teeth and study until late at night. Just as I yawned for the 13th time, Harun arrived, his whole body reeking of alcohol. Nanny and Tessa looked at each other without saying a word, gathered all the account books and ran off. "Help me close the door," I wailed. "Nanny, give the books back to me. I can read 10 more volumes, do not leave me alone with him." I ran to the door but was caught by the waist and held back. He leaned close and chuckled softly. "Am I not more worth watching than account books?" I wanted to cry. He nuzzled his face into my neck and said, "I have been busy with court affairs lately. The western border is unstable." My father was annoyed and dragged me to drink. I asked, "What do you usually do after getting drunk?" "Sleep." "Then I invite your highness to go to sleep immediately. Do not disturb me." He hugged me tighter. "Can you stay with me? I miss you very much." His words were so direct that my face turned bright red. Remembering Matron Jung's words that he becomes honest when drunk, I felt a sudden urge to tease him mischievously. I turned to face him. "Miss me? Why?" He spoke resentfully. "I was so busy I could not see your face." He acted as if it were my fault. "You did not come to find me either. You do not care about me at all. You are so heartless." I was about to roll on the floor laughing. Who would have thought the crown prince would sulk like a little housewife? I stood on my tiptoes and kissed his cheek. I was wrong. I thought he was a soft puppy, forgetting his true nature was a wolf in sheep's clothing. He immediately embraced me and kissed my lips. Before I could react, I was pressed onto the table. Everything fell with a loud crash. I screamed. My peach blossom wine, 1 jar shattered. He held up the remaining jar. "Do you want a drink?" His smile was too beautiful. I froze. I nodded. He opened the lid, took a sip, and then passed it to my mouth. The sweet wine spread across my lips and tongue, and my mind went completely numb. Truly, I brought this upon myself. After that incident, I deduced a principle: as long as I cause trouble in the Eastern Palace, Harun will come to cause trouble for me. Since that is the case, I will fight fire with fire. Harun stared at the bowl of strangely colored soup in front of him, his lips pursed tight and his eyebrows furrowed. I clutched my chest, pretending to be heartbroken. After all, this represents my sincerity. How can your highness mock it like that? I playfully fiddled with the memorial I had just snatched from his hand and spoke sincerely. Your highness, this is snow ear fungus soup that I cooked with my own hands for a long time. If you do not give me a face and taste a little, I will be sad. Harun did not hold back. Looking at this color, did you reheat it all day and night? He looked up at me, and I raised my eyebrows back at him. We stared at each other for a long time. Vance, who had been standing beside us, seemed to have made up his mind. He pulled out a silver needle from somewhere and intended to poke it into the bowl of soup. I shouted angrily. What are you planning to do? Vance trembled. Reporting to the crown princess, the color of this soup truly looks like it contains poison. Your subordinate is just taking precautions. I waved my hands and feet to chase Vance out. Harun laughed, struggled to scoop up a spoonful of snow ear fungus, swallowed it, and then held out his hand. I have eaten it, can you return the memorial to me now? I waved the memorial in my hand, intending to tease him with a few more sentences, but then I saw that it would document related to the spring hunt. My eyes lit up. I immediately placed the memorial respectfully on the table in front of him, obediently cleared away the soup bowl, and sat down beside him. Harun sighed softly and asked helplessly, Say it, what do you want this time? I brazenly sighed. Why is your highness so heartless? Just last night you told me to stay by your side more. The tips of Harun's ears turned red again. I did not bother beating around the bush anymore. I enthusiastically said straight out, Your highness will take me to the spring hunt, right? I haven't ridden a horse in a long time. I wonder if my archery skills have deteriorated.
No.
Harun refused without needing to think. Not this time. Why not? I have endured not leaving the palace for more than half a month, just waiting for this spring hunting trip to go play, Harun said. Wait until I finish handling these matters, and I will take you out of the palace to play. I will not accept that. He spoke again. Then wait for the autumn hunt, I will definitely take you along. I put on a serious face. Does your highness really think I know nothing? Harun turned to look at me, his eyes deep, his thoughts unreadable. I pointed straight at him. Are you planning to take advantage of my absence to flirt with noble ladies and bring back a few beauties to annoy me? Harun burst out laughing. Is that what you think of me? I rolled my eyes, ignoring him. Obviously, last night you said you would agree to whatever I wanted. Could it all be fake, just to trick me? Harun refused to admit it. When did I say that? I decided to take a risk and asked him. Last night you said you missed me. Was that true? Harun did not expect me to bring that up. I immediately blushed but pretended to remain calm. After a while, he whispered. True. You said you liked me very much. Is that also true? True. Everything you say, when drunk, is true. True. Then the part where you said you would agree to whatever I wanted, is that also true? True, yes. The plan succeeded. I laughed heartily. A gentleman's word is gold. It seems your highness is forced to take me along. Harun coldly uttered a few words. Beauty befuddles the mind. I was not a naturally smart person. My reactions were slow, but in my free time, I liked to ponder things. Looking back later, I figured out 70 or 80% of many matters. For instance, my marriage to Harun was actually something the emperor had calculated long ago, just waiting for the opportunity. After all, my grandfather was once a great general guarding the borders, and my father, Marquis Shen, had established many military merits. As the sole heir, marrying into the royal family was the safest path. For instance, the relationship between the emperor and my father was not like fire and water as it appeared on the surface. Their constant arguing seemed more like they were weaving an invisible net beneath that layer of bickering. After the chaos in the western border, the Marquis Shen's estate could no longer stand on the sidelines. For instance, there were some people in the court who ate the king's salary, but were not loyal to the king, extending their hands into both the court and the harem, and even daring to collude with foreign tribes. For instance, just as my father allowed my mother to live half her life in comfort like a useless decoration, it was clear Harun wanted to follow suit. In truth, he did care about me a little. That afternoon, I finally caught an opportunity to brag to Tessa. Tessa, Harun praised my beauty. Tessa was astonished. The crown prince does not seem like someone who gives praises. What exactly did his highness say? I pointed a wooden sword at her chest. She quickly leaned to dodge and raised her sword to block the strike. Crown princess, if you cannot win in a fight, are you planning to distract me? That will not work. I flipped my grip on the sword, spun around to her back, and pointed the hilt at her neck. I just wanted to share a little husband and wife intimacy. After all, my Tessa still does not have anyone in her heart yet. Tessa was angry. She spun around and raised her hand to knock my wooden sword upwards. Before I could defend myself, her sword was already resting on my neck. That did not matter, but the sword that was knocked flying nearly hit Haran, who had just stepped into the courtyard. Fortunately, Vance behind him managed to swing his hand in time and chop it in two. I saw that Haran's expression was not good, and his fists were clenched tight. Tessa, run quickly. When I looked back, her shadow was already gone. I also intended to run, but Haran strode over quickly and grabbed my clothes to hold me back. I gave an awkward smile. Why is your highness free to come here? Is there something wrong? Haran's face was expressionless. I came to discuss husband and wife intimacy with you. I did not know why Haran was in a bad mood today. He ordered someone to move his memorials to my sleeping quarters, then sat there reading in silence, not saying a word. I pulled Vance to the outer room to ask what had happened. Vance lowered his voice. Today, His Highness went out of the palace for work and heard some rumors. I was still confused. Vance secretly took a storybook from his chest and stuffed it into my hand. You will understand after reading this. I glanced at the title and my face immediately turned black. The Romantic Lady and the Handsome Guard. What the hell is this? I flipped to the introduction page. Sure enough, the female protagonist was modeled after the famous lady, but the male protagonist was not Haran, but Silas Shen. The introduction roughly described the lady and her close guard growing up together as childhood sweethearts with deep affection. Even the lady's flashy martial arts moves were personally taught by the guard. However, the lady was romantic and lustful, frequently visiting brothels. This caused the guard heartache. Moreover, due to their difference in status, when it came time for marriage, the guard withdrew. The emperor granted a marriage decree, and she turned her back to marry another. In the end, the two were separated by an abyss, forever looking at each other from afar. A tragic love story. I threw the storybook straight onto the ground and angrily cursed. Nonsense. To me, Silas Shen is both a guard and a big brother. He was an orphan my grandfather brought back from the western border, and his kung fu was also taught by my grandfather. Later, when my grandfather retired and returned to his hometown, he left Silas at the Marquis's estate. He was baby-faced, but in reality, he was 8 years older than me. My father saw that he spoke little but worked reliably, so he kept him by my side as a guard. That was all there was to it. How long have I even been in the palace? Yet people outside dare to fabricate such things about me and Silas. Who is behind this? Vance replied. Please calm down, Crown Princess. His Highness has already sent people to investigate. The mastermind will be found very soon. I told Vance to withdraw. Picking up the storybook, I walked up to Haran and asked, Do you believe this? Haran calmly continued flipping through the memorials. Silas, you call him quite intimately. You have never called me that. My head buzzed. I lowered my voice. Haran, what do you mean? Haran gave a self-deprecating smile. Nothing, do not mind it. I have always regarded Silas as an older brother and have no other feelings for him. I will only say this once, believe it or not, it is up to you. Okay, I understand. The anger I had been suppressing was about to explode, but it was suddenly extinguished by a bucket of cold water. The anger dissipated, leaving me feeling completely powerless. Haran always had the ability to make me feel like I was punching cotton. I spun around on the spot, stomped my foot, and decisively picked up that storybook to read. I must say, the person who wrote this storybook had a very good writing style, and the story was engaging. I guessed that someone in the Marquis's estate provided the information. Some things actually happened, some were embroidered, and some were completely fabricated. Truth and falsehood were mixed, making it hard to distinguish. During dinner, I did not put down the book. I ate while reading and even asked Haran, who was sitting opposite me. Hey, Your Highness, have you finished reading this story yet? I find it very interesting. Haran's face darkened. I only skimmed it, I said. You should read it when you have free time, it is good for killing time. Let me tell you, this part is written very well. Haran coldly told me to shut up. I nodded. Then I will mark it for you later. It seemed Haran intended to sleep here tonight, but I did not bother paying attention to him. I was reading the climax part, so I took some pastries and tea to the edge of the bed, and continued reading. I did not know when it became bedtime. Haran took off his outer robe and walked over to me. A dark shadow covered the page. I waved my hand. Your Highness, move aside, you are blocking the light. Haran snatched the book from my hand and threw it aside, threatening me. If you read any more, I will not take you to the spring hunt. I gave up. After all, I already knew the ending. I sat up, took off my outer robe, and comfortably burrowed into the blanket, wrapping myself up. Harun tried to pull half of the blanket from me, but failed, so he had to order someone to bring a new one. The candles were extinguished. In the darkness, it was completely silent. I closed my eyes, drifting into sleep, when Harun suddenly spoke up. How much of the story in that book is true? I answered vaguely. About 40 or 50%. For example, he taught me martial arts, used to carry me on his back to the streets to play when I was small, and made rock candy for me to eat. The relationship between the lady and him being truly that good also counts. Harun fell silent. My consciousness began to blur. He reached out and pulled me into his arms. I did not have the strength to wonder when he had snatched the blanket away, so I just let him bow his head and kiss my forehead. I seemed to hear him murmuring something after that, but it was unclear whether it was a dream or reality. I only vaguely remembered a few sentences. What about me? When you were little, you always liked to argue with me, yet I also made a rabbit lantern for you once. Forget it, you have always been this heartless. I dreamed about those arguments and about a rabbit-shaped lantern. Harun and I had never gotten along since childhood. When I was little, not to brag, but I was truly a little girl with white skin and pink lips. Everyone who met me loved me. Although the emperor did not like my father, every time he saw me, he could not help but pick me up and pinch my chubby cheeks. As for Harun, he had always worn a cold face since he was small. When I was acting coquettish in the emperor's arms to ask for things, he, as the crown prince, sat aside reading a book, looking at me with disdain. I had never been treated so coldly by anyone. So, once it was just the two of us, I questioned him. Why are you looking at me like that? Is it because the emperor spoils me more than you, so you are jealous? Harun scoffed coldly, uneducated with no future prospects. Do you only know how to act cute to get what you want? He grew up to be very handsome. Initially, I liked him too and wanted to play with him. Hearing that sentence, I flew into a rage, and we had a fiery argument. Afterward, the emperor scolded him, but my anger did not subside. Returning to the estate, I told my father I wanted to study. My father was both surprised and delighted. He immediately invited a famous scholar in the capital to teach me. But literature truly gave me a headache. All those archaic words swirling around made me uncomfortable. Not long after, I threw down the brush and told my father I wanted to learn martial arts. This was even easier. Both my grandfather and father had many talented people under their command. My martial arts teacher was actually not just Silas alone. Later, I discovered that knowing only martial arts was not enough, so I rummaged through the study for books on military strategy to read more. Since I did not know all the characters, I actively went to invite the scholar back. When I felt I had learned quite a bit, I ran to Harun to show off. He still said with a cold face, just arrogant and conceited, nothing worth mentioning. I angrily smashed quite a few of his things, including a brocade box containing a phoenix hairpin belonging to the late empress. I did not know at the time, I only saw his face turn pale. I even raised my head to argue with him before running away. Later, when I recounted this to my mother, she clearly described that the hairpin belonged to the late empress and told me her story. I felt I was in the wrong and intended to apologize, but I did not know how to start the conversation. Right at that moment, that brat from the tutor's family, Felix Sue, crashed into me. Felix had always looked at Harun with displeasure. Firstly, because his father always used Harun as an example to lecture him. Secondly, he seemed to like Miranda Zhao. In a moment of heated foolishness, he dared to speak nonsense in the palace, claiming that Harun was cursed from the moment the empress became pregnant with him. She grew weaker by the day, eventually losing her life giving birth to him. Seeing him spout such nonsense, I rushed over, pinned him to the ground, and beat him up. I hit him while cursing. Let me teach you to speak nonsense. Who is cursed? I am beating you now. Let's see if you are cursed. Do you dare to talk about him again? No one around could stop me. Finally, it was Harun who came and pulled me off. He said I was messy, that for a girl to behave like that was rude and uncouth. I was so angry that I pushed him away. I do not want to see you anymore. Then I left. From then on, I did not follow my father into the palace to play anymore. I met Harun again during the Lantern Festival the following year. I went out with Tessa and Silas to see the lanterns and ran into him also strolling outside. He wore black robes and a fur cloak. His figure was already very tall. Under the lantern light, his features looked like a painting, standing out in the crowd. But I walked straight past him without even greeting him. He said nothing, only quietly followed behind. I saw a rabbit lantern and pulled Tessa and Silas over to help me solve the riddle. But the three of us were poor scholars, the lantern was won by someone else. I wandered around many stalls but could not find another rabbit lantern. The sky was getting dark, so I had to return home in low spirits. Just as I had changed my clothes preparing to sleep, my mother draped a cloak over me, saying that Harun had come to the estate to find me. Bewildered, I went to the front hall. He handed me a strange rabbit lantern. I wrapped my cloak around me and took it. I looked at it once and said, "It is so ugly, where did you find it?" Harun, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. "You argued with me for a few sentences, got unhappy and left. I was sleepy to death, so I gave the lantern to my mother and went straight to sleep. But after that, I gained the upper hand and frequently went into the palace to cause trouble again." This spring hunt was attended by many high-ranking officials, nobles, and their families. Looking at the bustling camp, having been confined in the palace for so many days, my excitement finally surged. I even specifically dragged out a riding outfit I hadn't worn in a long time and tied my hair in a high ponytail with a fabric strip. Seeing my parents from afar, I shook off Harun's hand holding mine and happily ran over. Silas also came, looking a bit haggard. I chatted with my parents for a while, then couldn't help but ask him what happened. Silas said, "If the crown princess hears any rumors, please do not take them to heart." I laughed and replied, "Silas, do you not understand me yet?" Silas gave me a faint smile. I added, "Did my father keep your money and force you to do heavy labor? You look thinner again." Hearing this, my father knocked me on the head. "What are you saying? Is your father that kind of person?" I said. "How would I know? After all, Silas and I once split your private money and even sold you out. Since I am not home, maybe you took revenge, it is very possible." My father was about to say something else when Harun walked over and took my hand. After paying respects, he suddenly stuffed a cherry taken from the tent into my mouth. I was confused, but under his threatening gaze, I still had to swallow it. Hiss, "It is so sour." I covered my mouth to spit out the pit, unable to stop myself from complaining. Harun said with an unchanging expression, "Yes, it is sour." My mother stood aside laughing happily, and even my father, who was pretending to be serious, couldn't help but smile. I said to Harun, "Aren't you being too childish?" Harun did not speak. My mother meditated. All right, Your Highness, please take my daughter back to her position. The hunt is about to begin." The opening ceremony of the spring hunt was nothing special, not much different from previous years. The emperor only appeared for a moment, then said he was unwell and returned to the dragon tent, handing over authority to the crown prince to preside. It was rare to see Consort Zhao, who usually secluded herself in the harem, but the little prince did not come along. Harun wore neat hunting gear, riding a Fergana horse. His handsome appearance, broad shoulders, narrow waist, and dashing demeanor were truly eye-catching. I saw many unmarried young ladies blushing. I was so angry I stuffed my mouth full of cherries. Harun turned back to glance at me, a hint of a smile in his dark eyes. "What do you want?" "I will hunt one for you." "No need." Before I could even spit out the cherry pit in my mouth, I turned my head away. "If I want something, I will hunt it myself." Harun's smile grew even brighter. Following the bugle signal, he led the group to set off. I called Tessa to help me choose a horse. Tessa looked worried. "Crown Princess, maybe we should not," I said. "Don't worry, Tessa. It is only the first day, nothing will happen. Just let me play for a day." Tessa had no choice but to select another horse to follow me. Truly, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Not long after riding into the hunting grounds, I ran right into Felix. This brat had grown up now, his face was handsome, looking like a scholar. He probably still remembered the beating from years ago clearly. Seeing me, his face stiffened. "Why are you here too? Why aren't you obediently staying in the tent instead of running out here?" I raised the bow in my hand without knocking an arrow, pretending to aim at him. "Obviously to hunt, can't you see?" He looked behind me. "Did you not know to bring more people? What if you encounter danger?" I was very surprised. "Did I beat you, stupid? Why are you worried about me? Looking at that weak body of yours, you had better worry about yourself first." Felix glared at me, but insisted on coming along, saying he had brought a few guards just in case. I told him, "You have become more thoughtful than before." Felix seemed a bit angry. He glared at me again as if wanting to say something, but held it in and remained silent. At that moment, a rabbit jumped out from a distant bush. Without a word, I immediately drew an arrow, drew the bow, and hit it with one shot. I proudly said, "Do you see how formidable I am?" Felix snorted. "It is just a wild rabbit, what is there to be proud of?" I said. Do not blame me for not warning you. If you follow me, be careful not to go home empty-handed. Humph, you just try. Try then try. To prove my words, for the next stretch of the road, I did not let him take a single bird or beast. The sun was about to set, and his face looked terrible. I thought that since he was 2 years younger than me and had followed me out of kindness, I shouldn't make him lose too much face. Just then, a spotted deer, startled by the noise, ran out from behind a tree. I said, seeing that you were kind enough to protect me, I will hunt this deer for you. I spurred my horse to chase after it. The deer ran fast, but how could it escape my steed? In no time, I identified the opportunity. 2 arrows left the bow at the same time, hitting the deer's belly, and it fell on the spot. I was in a very good mood and leisurely turned back. Halfway there, a scene struck my eyes that made my heart want to stop beating. I actually saw with my own eyes Harun lifting Miranda Zhao onto his horse. Lifting her onto his horse. I rubbed my eyes several times to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Anger instantly flared up, hot blood rushing straight to my head. Without thinking, I galloped straight towards them. Reining in my horse, I stared down at Harun from above. My face must have been extremely unsightly, to the point where he froze for a moment, forgetting to open his mouth to explain. My anger rose higher and higher. I jumped off my horse, intending to pull Miranda Zhao down. Harun hurriedly stopped me. Just now, I almost shot her by mistake, causing her to sprain her ankle. I pointed at the guards standing nearby and shouted angrily. Does she not have people with her? Why must it be you holding her? Do you want to take a concubine now? Harun froze again, then gave a forced, bitter smile. He lowered his head and spoke softly. As soon as anyone else touches her, she cries loudly. Was I supposed to leave her in the middle of the forest? Miranda Zhao still had tears in the corners of her eyes, her voice choked with sobs. Crown Princess, please do not misunderstand. I only recklessly ran over because I had an important matter to discuss with His Highness, and I almost got hit by his arrow, I said with a cold face. So, are you done talking? Since you are done, go back yourself. Do you expect my husband to lead the horse and escort you to your door? Miranda Zhao did not answer, nor did she move. I rolled my eyes. Just then, Felix arrived. I immediately gave the spotted deer I had hunted to him and conveniently ordered him to take her back. I said that today I would consider doing a favor for the two of them, ignoring Felix's awkwardness and Miranda's resentful gaze as I firmly pushed them away. Harun stood behind me silently with his arms crossed, watching me make a scene. Tessa was also very sensible. She led the guards far away, leaving space for the two of us. I did not want to pay attention to him anymore. I turned around and jumped on my horse, intending to leave. Seeing this, Harun didn't even care about his precious horse. He blocked my horse's head, demanding to ride together, and even reached out asking me to pull him up. I refused. He then demanded to lead the horse and walk me back. The sky was getting dark, and I didn't want to drag this out, so I gave in. Taking the opportunity, he wrapped his arm around my waist, snatched the reins from my hand, and held me tight in his arms. Silly, Harun whispered in my ear. I elbowed him hard backward and heard him groan softly. Did you know? Felix does not like Miranda Zhao at all. Is that so? When we were little he secretly hid a white jade hairpin. I caught him, and he blushed, saying he wanted to give it to her. What was that about? Then why did he purposely speak ill of me in front of you? Do you think he would dare to speak such nonsense? I was stunned. No wonder every time he met me, he hesitated as if he wanted to speak but stopped. Does that not mean I beat him up and hurt his feelings? He is truly pitiful. Harun laughed. It is okay. He has always thought you liked me, I said angrily. I do not like you. He sighed softly. But I like you. Those words, his lips were close to my ear, his voice was light but shook my heart like a war drum. My heart pounded, and my whole body tensed up. I didn't know how to react, only feeling my face, ears, and neck burning hot. Then I like you too. Harun did not expect me to answer like that. His hand holding the reins paused, then he laughed out loud, hugging me even tighter. He tilted his head and kissed my cheek lightly. Call me husband, once, let me hear it. I turned my head away. Why are you acting like a rogue without even drinking wine? From afar, the campfire of the camp was already visible. The night enveloped us, bringing a strange silence. Harun stopped teasing me and said seriously, do not run around tomorrow. There might be a fierce battle. Miranda Zhao found me because of this matter, right? I sighed. The Chancellor is old and senile. I see that Consort Zhao isn't very enthusiastic either. I am afraid only a few countries west of the western border are still pretending to support him. Yet he cannot see the situation clearly. Haren chuckled softly. You understand it very well, I replied. Of course, this lady comes from a military family. Women are no inferior to men. Haren kissed my cheek again, speaking gently. Protect yourself well, Serena. Everything happened even faster than I imagined. Chancellor must have known that Miranda Zhao had been secretly sent by Consort Zhao to find Haren. Fearing that a long night brings many dreams, on the second night, he launched troops to surround the dragon tent. He thought that to catch bandits, one must first catch the king. Once he had the emperor, everything else would be easy to resolve. As for his grandson, the second prince, he just needed to wait in the palace for a decree passing the throne. However, when he stepped into the dragon tent, he discovered that the person inside was basically not the emperor. The person sitting there was Prince Xian, the emperor's half-brother, who had always stayed in his fiefdom. As for the real emperor, he had quietly returned to the palace right after the appearance on the first day of spring. Seeing the unfavorable situation, those following Chancellor risked their lives to open a bloody path for his retreat. The rebel army joined forces with the people of Western Huai, attacking from the inside out to cover his escape. My father and Haren led troops in pursuit. They ran all the way to the Western Huai camp. Years ago, after the chaos in the western border, my father and grandfather had discovered anomalies. How could a few small countries led by Western Huai have the strength to stalemate with our great army for 3 years? From then on, they realized there were likely enemy forces infiltrating the court. Attacking from both inside and outside was what made the situation so tragic. I sat in the tent deep in thought, fearing it was not just Chancellor alone. Western Huai had great ambitions. They certainly would not bet on just one person. How to cut it off at the roots was a truly difficult matter. The noise outside gradually subsided, and the light of dawn began to peek from the east. Just then, Silas walked in. I asked him, "Where is Tessa?" Suddenly, many cold arrows pierced through the tent from behind. I couldn't react in time. An arrow grazed my arm. Silas rushed forward to shield me. I sensed the arrows were poison. My head started spinning, and immediately after, I felt someone strike heavily on the back of my neck. Then I completely lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was still in a tent, but looking at the decker, it seemed to be in the camp of the Western Huai tribe. It seemed I had been unconscious for a long time. I really couldn't understand. If they wanted to capture someone, they should have captured the crown prince. A group of people walked into the tent. The leader was dressed quite gorgeously. Seeing me awake, a cold smile bloomed on the corner of his lips. The crown princess of the Central Plains is truly beautiful, I replied. You speak the language of the Central Plains quite well, Prince Torin. Torin heard this and burst out laughing. I heard the lady of the Marquis Shen's estate is not like ordinary women. Indeed, the reputation is not undeserved. You flatter me. I raised my voice. After all, you have reached your hands into the Marquis's estate. If I remained a useless person, it wouldn't fit the times, right? Silas Shen. Silas walked in without saying a word. Torin said, "You even know who he is." I wanted to raise my hand, but I was tied up, so I could only lift my chin. An orphan brought back from the western border. Of course, his identity had to be investigated clearly before keeping him by my side. Do you think everyone else is a fool? Killing intent flashed in Torin's eyes. His hand rested on the hilt of the saber at his waist. Since you knew from the start, why did you keep him? Know the enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles with no danger of defeat. It seems he cannot be kept alive. Wait, I cut him off. What exactly is your purpose in capturing me? You are the only daughter of Marquis Shen and the crown princess. Capturing you in this battle only brings benefits, no harm. I looked up at the top of the tent, feeling a bit speechless. What benefits did the Chancellor promise you? If he succeeds, more than 10 cities will go to Western Huai. Other benefits go without saying. If he fails, he can still serve as a strategist for Western Huai to help in the future. Torin pulled hard on the ropes binding me. As for you, you shouldn't have let your guard down so easily given your status. Even without fighting this battle, just using you to exchange for a few cities would be enough. The transaction between the King of Western Huai and Chancellor has likely lasted 20 years, hasn't it? He climbed to the position of Chancellor, yet not a single promise he made was ever fulfilled. You still believe him? It is truly ridiculous. It is no loss, right? Torin stood up straight. But as you just said, know the enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles with no danger of defeat. Great undertakings naturally must be done step by step. Alright, I do not want to waste my breath with you. I chose a more comfortable sitting position. Since you kept me because I am useful, please give me something to eat. Also, leave Silas Shen to take care of me, I am not used to other people. Of course, if Prince Torin is not assured, just send someone to supervise. The person behind him. That beauty looks decent, I like her. The war situation was tense, and Torin did not want to waste time arguing with me. The person standing behind him seemed to be a confidant. Seeing my request, he said nothing more. After making arrangements, they left. I told Silas to loosen the ropes, only tying my hands, and then said to the beauty, I once met you at the moonlit pavilion. The mole at the corner of your eye is very beautiful. The beauty laughed. You almost dazzled me. Being caught by you while cross-dressing, please forgive me. You obey Harren's orders, Cain can naturally also obey your orders. He looked at Silas. After all, even the fifth prince listens to you obediently. Silas frowned slightly, seeming to dislike this title. I said, he only wanted to take his mother and sister away. He did not want to be threatened by the Western Hui royal family anymore. Cain said, that is not difficult. To get Silas to bring the crown princess here, Prince Torin has already brought his mother and princess to the camp. That was the condition of exchange. Correct. Silas was not an orphan at all. He was the son of the Western Hui king. His mother was a female slave from the Central Plains with low status, kept by the Western Hui king only for her beauty. She gave birth to a son and a daughter but was valued by no one. Torin's maternal clan was very powerful. He had ambition, strength, and methods. Seeing Silas had the appearance of someone from the Central Plains, he used the lives of Silas's mother and sister to threaten him, then released that young child to my grandfather's side as a spy. It was a pity that Torin was too arrogant and looked down on probing human hearts. Many things had spun out of his control long ago, yet he still thought he held victory in his hands. I asked Cain, how many people do you have here? Cain laughed, you overestimate me. Only a few dozen, but that is enough. Since my hands are tied, it was hard to pull out the piece of red jade from my robe, plus the people from my father doing a few small things shouldn't be difficult. Cain took it, smiling but not answering. I said, courtesy demands reciprocity. This trick isn't something only the Western Hui people know how to use. The king of Western Hui was old and gradually losing real power, while Torin was overly belligerent. Western Hui looked increasingly powerful on the surface, but in reality it was just flashy on the outside and rotten on the inside, long dragged down by the habit of only knowing how to conquer east and west to expand territory. In less than half a month, the main force of Western Hui suffered successive defeats. The provisions at their camp were burned down, and Chancellor was killed. Not long after, they dragged me out as their final trump card. I was personally escorted by Torin up the watchtower. Below was a sea of black people, the military formation strict, yet I felt no fear. Standing at the head of the formation were my father and Harren. Honestly speaking, Harren looked truly handsome in armor. His majestic appearance made me unable to resist admiring him a few more times to satisfy my eyes, until a gleaming sword was placed right against my neck. Torin said, I indeed underestimated you. Tell your father and husband to withdraw their troops immediately and hand over 5 cities, or else I will take your head right now. I really wanted to look at him with a "you are an idiot" look, but sadly he was standing behind me, so I couldn't turn my head, so I made a very exaggerated expression and shouted loudly towards the bottom of the watchtower. Father, your highness, do you see the words on my face? Silence on all 4 sides. My father and Harren looked at me silently. Even Torin didn't know what I intended to do. I pointed at my face, loyal and courageous, sacrificing for the country. Taking advantage of the moment Torin froze, I suddenly made a move, snatching the sword from his hand and sweeping it towards his neck. But he was someone experienced in battle. His reaction was very fast. I only managed to leave a shallow cut on his neck. The 2 sides on the watchtower immediately rushed into a fight. Torin flew into a rage, disregarding everything else, and raised his bow to aim straight at me. The watchtower was narrow, and I had nowhere to dodge. I threw the sword at him and turned to jump down. My mind was only thinking about how to protect my head when landing, but I already saw my father and Harren rushing forward together. Harren anticipated my intention. He was 1 step faster than my father, riding his horse to catch me on its back. The warhorse panicked, rearing up on its hind legs, throwing both of us off. Harren held me tight, protecting my head. We rolled for more than 10 rounds before stopping. My whole body ached as if falling apart, but fortunately, I wasn't seriously injured. My limbs could still move. I gently pushed Harun. I am fine. Harun spoke with difficulty. But I am not. My father hurriedly sent people to take both of us back to the camp. Harun had fallen from the horse, his back slamming straight onto the ground while protecting me. His injuries were not light. Upon returning to the camp, he fell into a coma. I heard that thanks to my reckless action, the morale of our army, which was already rising, surged even higher. They beat the main force of Western Huai until they scattered, took Torin's head, and advanced straight into the Western Huai royal court. Driven to a dead end, the Western Huai king was forced to hand over the entire list of spies planted in our court in exchange for a truce. Besides Chancellor, the remaining ones, though not big, were potential threats. The emperor issued a decree. No need to exterminate them completely. Our army withdrew and returned in triumph. When Harun woke up, the first sentence he said to me was, "You were truly reckless." Then, for a long time, he didn't bother talking to me. I had to use a gentle voice to coax him. "You know, I have experience. I won't die." "No, that is not right. It is because I trust you. I believed you would definitely catch me, so I dared to risk it. Although I was captured partly to help Sila's, there were also my father's people and your people in the Western Huai camp. My capture was also to coordinate from the inside and outside for a quick victory. You saw me turn the entire Western Huai base upside down, didn't you? Was I capable? Do not be angry anymore, okay? I promise I won't cause trouble in the future. Are you still in pain? Is the medicine bitter? I will go get some candied fruit for you to eat." Harun was truly angry. Even when his wounds were almost healed, he still didn't bother speaking to me. I was so sad that I went back to my parents' home. My father said that when he saw me with the sword at my neck on the watchtower, Harun's face went pale, his hands clenched tight, and his whole body trembled. He sighed and said he had reluctantly accepted this son-in-law. My mother, however, said that husband and wife argue at the head of the bed and make peace at the foot of the bed, then kicked me out of the house, forbidding me from sleeping over. Returning to the Eastern Palace, Harun sat waiting in the sleeping quarters with a cold face. After enduring for a long time, he finally spoke up. "You only coaxed me for a few days and already lost patience." Tessa understood the cue and immediately led all the servants out, thoughtfully closing the door as well. I brazenly walked over and kissed the corner of his lips lightly. "I truly know I was wrong." Harun's eyes softened. I took the opportunity to hug his waist. "I like you the best." Harun glanced at me. "Really?" I immediately raised my hand to swear. "Really, I only like you the most. I want to be with you forever." Harun finally smiled, lowered his head, and kissed me gently. "I love you." I looked up at him, my eyes glistening with tears, my heart soft as cotton. "Thank goodness," I finally coaxed him. "Really?" I asked softly. "Then are you willing to love only me alone for lifetimes to come?" He reached out to stroke my hair, his voice gentle but firm. "Even if in the next life I am a mortal and you are a fairy, or I am a poor man and you are a noble lady, I will find you and love you again." My heart felt squeezed tight and then bloomed, soft petals falling within my chest. Outside the window, the moon had just risen. Moonlight filtered through the silk curtains, falling all over his shoulders and covering my blushing cheeks. I snuggled into his arms, my voice as small as a kitten's. "Then tonight, you are not allowed to go to study anymore." Harun raised an eyebrow slightly, tilting his head to look at me. "Oh, I dare not disobey my wife's order." I intentionally gave a soft humph. "Good that you know. If you dare to be cold to me one more time, see if I do not truly run away from home." He laughed, lowering his head to kiss my forehead lightly. "Then I must hold you very tight, lest I wake up tomorrow morning and my wife has turned into wind and flown away." I couldn't help laughing. Looking up, it was just the right moment for him to lower his head and give me a long, deep kiss. In the quiet space, only the sound of my heart beating and our breath entwined remained. Epilogue. Harun Lee. I was titled Crown Prince as soon as I was born. Very early on, I knew my mother did not die because of a difficult birth. Chancellor used consort Zhao's hand to kill her. My father knew this too, but the court and the harem are like a chessboard closely linked. Touching one point shakes the whole board. He could not touch the Zhao family, so he could only compensate me with the position of the Eastern Palace. I also knew from early on that the daughter of Marquis Shen would be my future crown princess. My father trusted Marquis Shen. It is hard to say where that trust began, considering Marquis Shen once stole the person in his heart. But later I understood. During discussions, except for unavoidable state affairs, Marquis Shen only liked to brag about his wife and daughter. My father once sighed with emotion. Marquis Shen only has those few pursuits left. Perhaps he couldn't bear to marry the precious daughter he held in the palm of his hand to me. My father could not protect my mother, a gentle and kind person. So could I protect the little lady who had been spoiled since childhood. The first time Serena Shen entered the palace, she was a tiny, soft pink ball of cotton. No one who saw her could help but smile kindly. She knew this very well and liked to act coquettish, making everyone give in to her. Even my father liked to hold her. Although my father loved me, he had never spoiled me like that, because I was the crown prince, the future successor. What I needed was not deep father-son affection, but the cold majesty of an emperor. After my father left, Serena ran up to me and asked in a coquettish voice if I was jealous. Looking at her, I suddenly remembered my mother, who had been killed by a vicious scheme. I said with a cold face, uneducated, with no future prospects, do you only know how to act cute to get what you want? If that is all you have, how will you survive in this treacherous deep palace? After saying it, I immediately knew I had gone too far. She was so small, at the age of innocence and carefreeness. Why should she have to think about survival? She turned red with anger, like a dumpling dropped into a frying pan, jumping up to argue with me. I was 2.5 years older than her, yet it was truly shameful to bicker with her. Afterward, I was scolded by my father. Marquis Shen came to ask me, "What kind of bewitching potion did you give my daughter?" She came home demanding to learn to read and learn etiquette. Her face is always scrunching up like a flattened steamed bun, but she still persists. I was slightly stunned. I thought she would go home and tattle, letting Marquis Shen come to punish me. For a long time, I didn't see her appear anymore. I heard she switched to practicing martial arts, rolling around everywhere, covered in bruises, her personality stubborn and strong. Marquis Shen laughed and told my father, "That girl even loves reading military books, but doesn't know the characters." She pitifully went to the door to beg the scholar to teach her again. I imagined her small face scrunched up like a steamed bun and couldn't help laughing. Marquis Shen turned his head to glare at me. "You can still laugh. Isn't it your fault?" Yes, it was all my fault. The little lady who used to laugh and talk. It had been a long time since she entered the palace, so long that I could only see her a few times from afar at royal banquets. When we met again, she had grown up, becoming a beautiful and clear young maiden. That time, perhaps feeling she had some capability, she arrogantly came to find me to show off, the bruises on her hands still clearly visible. I intended to give a compliment, but the words that came out were, "A dog relying on its master's house, a chicken relying on its coop, nothing worth mentioning." A look of disappointment flashed in her eyes, immediately turning into anger. She threw all sorts of things at me, including my mother's phoenix hairpin. She didn't know what it was. Seeing my face look terrible, she still arrogantly argued back and then left. But afterward, she wasn't really angry with me. Every time she saw me, she always wanted to get close but then hesitated and avoided me. That day, I was discussing matters with the Grand Tutor, when a servant reported that Serena Shen was beating the Grand Tutor's son, that brat named Su. He told me privately. Before letting the Grand Tutor know, I made an excuse to keep him in the Eastern Palace, while I went to the Imperial Garden myself. On the way, the servant explained the whole story. Arriving there, I saw Serena pinning that guy to the ground, beating and scolding him. She took action for my sake. I felt a nameless joy, but she was too close to him. Didn't she know men and women should keep their distance? I pulled her off, sternly scolding her, saying she shouldn't be rude and uncouth. She stared at me blankly, then angrily pushed me away. "I do not want to see you anymore." She turned and left. For the first time in my life, I found myself flustered. That guy named Shu was helped up, still silently watching her retreating figure. I suddenly realized he liked her. I didn't know what was in my heart. I only knew she was the person who would become my crown princess in the future. Beyond that, I had never thought of anything else. After that incident, she truly didn't come anymore. She didn't even eat her favorite pastries from the royal kitchen, and she was absent from royal banquets. The Lantern Festival was the birthday of the Marchioness Shen. After the dinner banquet, she would go to the streets to view the lanterns. I waited for her on the road she had to pass. She saw me but walked straight past without a glance. I could only silently follow. She liked a rabbit-shaped lantern but couldn't guess the riddle. All three of them were poor scholars. In the end, the lantern was won by someone else. She regretfully walked all over the streets but couldn't find another one like it, so she had to return to the estate dejected. I went back to that lantern stall. The owner was packing up. I gave him a gold ingot and asked him to teach me how to make a rabbit lantern. Fearing I wouldn't make it in time, I rushed to make it and brought it to the Marquis's estate. She was sleepy, forced awake by her mother, and wasn't happy at all. I gave the lantern to her. She looked at it closely and frowned. "It is ugly to death, where did you find it?" I was provoked, argued a few sentences with her, and left in a huff. I had always been good at endurance, but it was always broken by her. After that, she followed her father into the palace more often, saying she heard the royal kitchen had a new type of cake. She brought the cakes to the study and sat next to me, challenging me to chess. Her skills were terrible, and she often cheated. I scolded her a couple of times, and she got angry. That day, I caught her cheating. She resentfully threatened to marry into the Eastern Palace to torture me for the rest of my life. I stared at her without blinking. She thought I was provoked, and became even more smug, threatening even more fiercely. Little did she know I was just thinking, is there really such a good thing? My father didn't expect to pick up such a big bargain and immediately issued the marriage decree. She went weak in the knees and knelt down, while I smiled until the corners of my mouth lifted, getting a warning glare from Marquise Shen. Miranda Zhao came to find me, saying she liked me and was willing even to be a concubine. I was about to refuse when I saw Serena's sneaking figure. I immediately walked past. She then sourly said, "We are a pair of ill-fated lovebirds." Miranda Zhao wanted to mock her again, but she hugged my arm and said some cheesy things that stunned me. Since the time I scolded her when we were young, she had never acted coquettish with me again. Now, pretending to act cute, I wasn't used to it at all. Yet I found it adorable. After that day, just like before, she caused a new incident every day, sometimes sulking, sometimes playing tricks, turning the whole palace into a mess. I thought, if I had her by my side like this for my whole life, being an emperor wouldn't be hard at all. She is the sunshine of my life. So, Serena, I do not need you to be well behaved and virtuous as others expect. Just continue to cause trouble, continue to give me headaches, continue to be mischievous as before. Doing that for a lifetime is fine too. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share.